Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. What have we got today? A Bosch GSH11E. And to be honest, we could do a whole series of them here today because there's enough of them on for repair. This is the first of them. What's wrong with her? Sounds smooth enough in the motor. It's not that end. It's at this end. Yeah, doesn't look to be hammering. Okay, she's doing squat. But odd though, mind you, because the motor sounds really good. It sounds smooth enough this end. Normally whenever the hammer goes and needs a service, you'll have bad bearings or something as well. But it doesn't sound like there's anything wrong down here. You'll have to just get on there. See what the crack is. But here is she anyway. Oh, she's actually a brave age. 1999. 25 years old, that machine. Maybe it is just a service it needs. And also we have a bolt missing up here. That shouldn't be too big a deal. Plenty of grease in that. She's not dried out anyway. What kind of grease is that? Oof. That stinks. That is like the old grease of the really old Bosch hammers. The UBH hammers, you know. Older than the actual GSH11E. Haven't seen that stuff in a while. It's normally about 30 or 40-year-old machines. You see that there grease on? It smells like that anyway. It feels like it. It's like a very, very sticky type of grease. Very heavy. Right. Either this was serviced before and they just used older grease, or this is just really old that actually Bosch was using this at the time when they manufactured it. The rest of her's like. Now the rest of this is alright. Even that felt sleeve. No grease is coming out of that yet. I think this grease might be the problem. Yeah, I think it's the grease. She's just too sticky or something. She's too much of a seal. I think this is just going to need a wee light service. Strip it down, clean out all that old grease, change the O-rings on the piston on the striker, put on some new Bosch grease. I think that should sort this out. The motor section also should be fine. That sounds pretty good, but we'll just check the brushes as well. See, normally whenever these are running, Getting a bit of hard work, that grease will liquefy a wee bit and weep out through that bleed hole. Even the grease on that bleed hole is not the same as what's actually in that hammer. There's the proper grease. Let's see what we find underneath this. Right, I was expecting to find a big lump of heavy grease in there, old stuff, but there's not. But one thing it is doing is not much. I turn that piston, the striker ain't moving, so she's not getting any compression at all to move that striker. So there's a problem inside of here. First off, we're going to dismantle this because we are going to wash this out. I'll just take this off the motor section. Everything looks good enough. Even the needle bearing seems alright. It's definitely the wrong grease. But why is she just not hammering? I don't think that O-ring's right either. Seems very small or something. Yeah, it's not really giving much of a seal. That might be one of the problems. Right. Bit of washing out needed. May as well do this one when we're at it. The rest of that seems alright. Right, we'll give us a good clean. Part washer's only just been washed out and cleaned up. Because of that, the flow's very strong now, so it splashes an awful lot. But it's still nicely working with nice fresh kerosene. far better job of cleaning. The fluid itself wasn't dirty. Even at that age, they still clean up nicely. At least that grease comes off. Now, what we want to know, we're going to do a full service on this. Find that out. We want to see what the brushes are like. The brushes are worn out and need to be replaced. It'd be cheaper just to fit a new service kit. But if the brushes aren't worn out, it'd probably be cheaper just to fit a mini service kit instead. Just replace only a few certain pieces. And them brushes are basically new. So it wouldn't be worth putting a new service kit on, just replace them brushes, which cost about €26. And that bearing's good as well. That's been replaced recently. Proper NSK bearing. In other words, that motor unit there is fine. So we're not going to do a service on this, or a full service at least. If you don't need the brushes, you don't need a full service kit, especially on the likes of these GSH11Es. I'll just give that a clean down, and we'll give the motor unit a clean down as well. Get rid of the dust. Now, question is, what's in a mini service kit instead of a full service kit? Mini service kit, basically you just need 2 O-rings plus grease. Instead of using the big tubes of grease, I'm just going to use these ones for now because that's all I've got left. Exact same grease, they just come on a 45mm tube instead of a 250. 2 of them there gives you the 90mm you need to actually do the full service kit. You need them. And 2 O-rings, one for the striker, one for the piston. That's it. That's all we need to actually get this up and running again and hammering. Why not fit a full service kit? A full service kit has about 15 different parts in it. The main ones being the actual O-rings for the top, the brushes for the motor, which is the most expensive part. Obviously we don't need them because these are brand new by the looks of it. And as well, the felt sleeve for the top of the gearbox. That normally gets filled up with grease, becomes horrible and needs to be replaced. Not that it's all that expensive. This one only has a wee dab of grease, so obviously it's not got that much use. The only time you really need to put on a full service kit, I find, is whenever the brushes are worn out, or everything has actually been well worn. Whenever this here is full of grease, or if anything else is broken that is included in the service kit, then you fit a full service kit. You're just costing the customer extra money if you don't need the brushes, so I'm not going to fit the full service kit this time. All the other parts in it are just things like O-rings for up here, O-rings for the actual seal here. They're not all that expensive. Rubber cap, things like the ball bearings for the inside the tool holder. and the actual bolts for the top of here. Pieces that don't actually need to be replaced, you're just replacing them anyway because they're on the service kit. And the other thing to note, if you are fitting a full service kit, if them things are worn out, as that doesn't include everything. This needle roller down in here, the felt sleeve, and the bearing on your armature is not included in the service kit. So you have to buy them separately. So if these are worn out, especially this needle bearing, you would also just fit a full service kit. Because if that's going, something else is going to be gone as well. Just replace everything. But for this one, she's obviously not done a lot of work. Every other part in this seems fine. So we're just going to go with these 2 O-rings. That's all it should need. The only cost you're actually saving is just some of the parts. Mainly the brushes. That's it. You still have to strip everything down, clean it all out, replace all the grease. All the labour is still the same. It's just some of the parts you're not spending extra money on. So let's get on with it. And if you're needing them O-rings, that's your number there. If we're just getting this thing hammering again, these here and the grease is the main thing you're going to need, especially for one like this. Already blown this motor out, so I'll just put it back together again to keep it all together. Don't need to do anything else in this. The bearing's okay and the brushes are okay. And as well, when you're at this point, just check this wee change lever. This is the lever that engages your switch. Your slide switch here is actually rolling. This roller here is actually rolling on it. She rolls, she pushes it down, and it engages the switch here. Sometimes the plastic can wear away, so whenever the roller rolls across it, it doesn't get enough travel to switch on your switch. So if you see it badly worn here, big dent in it, just replace that. It only costs like €2 now. This one's fine. Don't forget about the grease on that needle bearing. Wouldn't want that going dry. I'm using this heavier Bosch grease for initially lubricating everything, but you can just use this stuff as well. Don't have to get this extra stuff. I only use this because I have it here. Slide your piston into this hammer pipe. Line up the head, get it on. Push the whole lot on. Now we can open up these. Get an initial bit of grease on there. And down along the side, the spring's going to go. Put in a bit more grease. Your big long spring goes on there. Just make sure that's lubricated up before you put it on. Slide that on. That's the top end ready. And you put on the rest of your grease. And as that heats up and starts working, it'll work its way around the rest of the hammer pipe, getting onto all the wee nooks and crannies. Just make sure all the important bits, any bits that's actually making contact or rubbing against each other, has an initial layer of grease on them first. These socket heads are fine to refit. Just put a little dab of Loctite on them first. Don't forget, get your felt sleeve on again. That'll do for that side for now. Nearly there. Now, see what she sounds like now. She's making a better sound anyway. That's a better sound already. Lovely job. That's her. Up and running again. 2 O-rings, some new grease. What'd be wrong with that? Like I say, if them brushes had been worn out completely, would have put on a full service kit. Or if the needle bearing or bearings had been bad, probably could have fitted a full service kit as well. That thing is just that old, 25 years, with really old heavy Bosch grease. It's just too thick for the actual machine itself. Plus the O-rings in them probably just degraded a little bit, gone a bit hard, so we weren't getting complete compression. 2 new O-rings, new grease, complete washout, and she's as good as new. So that's her ready to go. If you have one of these Bosch hammers, GSH11Es, she looks okay, she sounds good, she's just not hammering, either too weak in the hammer or no hammer at all. That's the main thing you need to do. Get rid of the grease, and then 2 O-rings on the piston and striker. They're the main things that's going to give you back your hammer again. But if there's anything else gone, especially needle bearing, also replace them. And if your brushes are also worn out and they need to be replaced, better off for the price to just fit a full service kit instead of just the O-rings and the brushes on their own. Them 2 O-rings and the brushes would nearly be the same price as the service kit anyway. Now, we done one, may as well do a second. This is another GSH11E, and this one has clearly been worked. More so than worked, it's been used and abused. This one is from 2002, so she's 22 years old, made in 2002, probably bought around 2003, but she was bought by a local builder here in the town. So this has been coming in here regularly for repair for the last 21 years. So this has actually been in here for repair 9 times. 7 of them times has just been for wee minor repairs, things like a lead, changing the fan and the armature, tool holder fixed up, stuff like that there, but mainly lead and brushes. But 2 of those times I was in, it actually got full service kits as well. Full service kit, needle bearings, bottom bearing, everything, the lot. So that's 2 full services this has actually got in the last 21 years. And that's one of the things I do like about these Bosch 11Es. She's 21 years old, she's loads of work done, she's been repaired 9 times, she's got 2 full services, and well, hopefully she's actually still running. And on top of that as well, older tools are generally a lot more reliable and better. 21 years old, this one, and you can still buy the exact same machine now today. GSH11Es are still one of Bosch's best selling hammers, and nearly everybody has one. And this is why. Now, hopefully this one does work now. Now we can hear a totally different tone out of this one. That's rough. So there's bearings gone on this, but the main thing is there's no sparks, so hopefully the armature's alright. Very rough sounding down here, and she doesn't sound or feel right up here either. So the question is, will she still hammer as well? There's another problem. She locks in. See the way she's twisting? But I can put it on wrong. She's sliding in and pulling out again. In other words, the actual tool holder on this is worn out as well. So this has done a lot of work. Doesn't seem to be hammering anyway. Right, so she's doing squat. She's the same as the last one, not doing anything. The motor's running badly, and the hammer's doing absolutely nothing. So this is going to need a full strip and a service also. The question is, what else is she going to need? This one we're going to start on the motor section to see what she's like. It's tight. Right, brushes aren't badly worn. They're not too bad. Maybe this one won't be getting a full service either. Yeah, they're fairly new. That's not done a lot of work. There's definitely a problem with that bearing. So she's sticking there, sticking there. So it looks like that race is cracked or damaged in some way. The balls are actually sticking inside, plus the seal's a wee bit damaged. So that bearing's bad for a start. Looks alright otherwise on the armature. Main thing to check is this sleeve up here. There's actually a little bit of wear on that. See, there's a step. That's where the actual needle roller is running. And over time that can wear in, which can produce a bit of play on the armature. These are quite well designed. They're not overly tight tolerance. She can withstand a little bit of play before she starts rubbing on the actual stator as well. We'll get away with changing that bearing. I'd imagine we'll need to change this needle bearing too. And the seal because she's leaking oil. And there's another problem in there. There's the wee ring for the top of the armature's come off. The wee oil ring that actually pushes the oil and grease back up again, keeping it away from the seal. That's come off. She's sitting down in there. So that's another problem. Now, that's an odd colour. We have other problems with this. Yeah. That's not the grease. That's not the colour it's meant to be. It's meant to just be a white or a brown grease. That silver tinge is metal. Looks like something might have broken inside of this here. With the machine constantly running, she's actually smashed it up and to smithereens, and it's now throughout the whole grease. So that silvery tinge is actually metal particles, and that's why she's more than likely not hammering. There's that gear I was telling you about, the wee ring. Looks like that is the problem. It's not meant to be that shape. That is meant to be on there. Somehow that's come loose. And she's been flapping around on side. But what other damage did it do? That's the question. So I'll take that out. Seems it doesn't want to stay in. Motor housing is going to need a clean as well. It's fairly bad. Even the field has got grease on it. So I'll just check all that out as well. That needs a good clean. So does the housing on here. The grease is all leaked through the seal because that part has gone, worn away. The metal's actually destroyed the seal. The seal then has allowed all the grease to leak through into the motor housing. So that all needs to be cleaned out as well. That's the way the felt sleeve normally comes out. A nice coat of grease on it. I'm going to need to replace that one. best to break them first before you take them out with a drill, otherwise you could just end up stripping out the head. That piece of steel been smashed up. I've gotten onto that O-ring and worn it out. You can actually feel it on the rubber. That pin as well is slack. Might have to change that there, either the con rod or the piston. So that's just a wee bit too slack. Eccentric cogs okay. These needle rollers seem alright anyway. Get away with them. But that bearing's gone. Tell by the amount of play and where the rollers actually sit. You can actually see a slight gap either side of the roller. It's a good indication to say this is well worn out. Plus the actual sound of the machine and the fact that the armature is worn up here gives you an indication that that is actually worn out. And even if it wasn't totally worn out, a little bit of play in that now with the play on the armature will make a problem. So if the armature is worn slightly like that there, it's always good just to replace that needle roller anyway, just to be on the safe side, just in case there's too much play. Right, more washing and stripping. The question is, are we going to put on a service kit onto this? Check back the sheets as well and see when the actual last time it got a full service. It was only a few years ago. We mightn't bother. Even with that part broke and the metal shavings and the grease, the rest of the service kit is not going to be affected by it. Why is that seal not coming out? There we go. You can really see that metallic colour in the grease now. No wonder she's not hammering. Right, more washing to do. Right, question is now, what all parts are we going to need? Going to put a full service kit into this here swell, mainly because I need the bearings changed anyway. This bottom one and the needle bearing and the housing along with the seal, so they need to be changed, so we may as well go with a full service kit. So one of the service kit now and a bearing. We also need the needle bearing for the top and a new lip seal, as well as that. Seeing as it's easy access now, change this here with a little lever as well, like I was saying on the last one. Also, the tool holder, because that's worn out, I'm going to have to fit a new one. But obviously I don't want to charge this fella 100 quid for a brand new tool holder, plus a service and whatever else. This could get very expensive. So there's actually a second hand one. That'll help keep the cost down quite a bit. Actual keyways in the centre, still perfect. A little bit of wear on it, nothing major, but that'll work out a lot cheaper. Because we need to replace that, we'll replace that O-ring as well, which is in the service kit. There's more reason why we'll go with a full service kit. Also, piston and the con rod. What to do with these? The piston needs to be changed anyway. See the metal and the actual plastic piston body itself, that's all embedded in, so that piston's no good. We need to replace that. For a start, the question is, do we need to replace the con rod as well as the pin? Not much difference there. No. She's a slack fit both ways. So in other words, the con rod should be okay. Which one's which now? That's my original one. We'll leave the con rod and just replace the piston. And the other part we'll need is one that's not actually available either. The main culprit, the boy that done the damage. This here is the oil ring for sitting on top. It's just literally a corkscrew thread on it. So as that machine's running, she's actually spinning and the thread's running up the way. So any grease that starts to build up down here starts to get pushed back up again, keeps it clear from the seal. So that is still a tight enough fit. So we'll replace that. That's not actually available, that's pulled off an old broken armature. And if this had been an older one again with a different armature, I would have fitted this one, like I was saying in a previous video. That's the same part, but this is off a different armature, an older version. The older one had this entire sleeve would come off, so if it was worn like this one here, you could actually replace the bearing surface itself. But this being a newer one, you can't actually take this one off. She's actually part of the whole shaft. So this is all I can replace. And I have to hope that wear isn't going to affect the hammer running too much. Hopefully that should be everything I need. Right, go with that. First off, change this bottom bearing. That's the armature ready. Next up, the actual hammer body. I'm going to take out this oil seal and needle bearing. Now the actual felt sleeve will come out as you're pressing out the bearing. So actually just focus on the bearing. To get it out, you need to actually get a parallel punch onto the outside race. There's a sleeve on it, like an edge. So you want to get to the edge to knock it out. But you can't get to the edge of the needles in place and the race. So to help you out, bust the bearing. Get on there and actually break the race holding the balls or the needle rollers. Take that out. Careful of the rollers. Make sure none of them are left inside the actual chamber, because they will cause damage if you don't take them all out. Now you have an edge. Put your parallel punch on it and just knock it out. That's your needle roller and your oil seal. Get rid of them. Just clean that bore a little bit. Now you can fit the new bearing. You can put a bit of heat on it as well to help it drop in. But you will need to press this in. The heat does help, but it will not allow you to get that bearing in fully. So you still have to press it. Then for your felt sleeve to keep the grease on, so you got a smooth side, a toothed side. Have the toothed side facing up the way. Don't need to use the bearing press for this. If you did, you would have no idea how far in this is. You just end up crushing it completely. So just use a steel ring to actually knock it on. Hear the tone change whenever you get to the bottom, and whenever it's at the bottom, just give it another little tap. That'll squeeze in the teeth and actually squeeze the felt enough so it's actually a tight fit against your armature. So that's that ready. So we'll put that aside for now, and we'll redo the motor section. This was all washed out. It's ready to go back together. They actually hold in the field, put it against the side. They also clip on the wires, keep them out of the way. Just this side, mind you, there's nothing needed on this side. brush holder just came out, so I'll stick that back in. Not fully, mind you, because we still want to put the armature back in again. Now for the service kit. Now you get these with and without the grease. This 190 is with the grease and 189 has no grease on it. Get your cap, your felt sleeve, brushes, O-ring, your big fat O-ring for the bottom of your hammer pipe. These are for your tool holder. Use screws for holding on your crank cover. Ball bearings for the actual lock, for your chisel rotation. Your seal for it as well, and the C-clip for the top. Big O-rings in for the crank cover again, and the front piece going onto the hammer. And your actual piston and striker O-rings in. Plus breakdown diagram showing you where everything actually goes. And at the very bottom, 2 tubes of grease, same as the last one, 014. It actually comes with 2 breakdown diagrams. If you're an older and a new version. Like I say, that's probably the dearest part of the service kit. So if the brushes are worn out, put a full service kit on. Works at a better price. I'm just doing the full one this time because of the amount of damage that was done to the machine. You can check to make sure them brushes are making contact just by wiggling the armature a little bit. Because them brush holders, because there's wee slots on them, little bits of stone or grit can fall on, jam up whenever you put the new brushes on then, because there's a piece of grit sticking through, the brush will not go down. But you can test that quickly by just giving a little wiggle. The brush moves, you know it's making contact. Now, just a wee bit of grease to initially start it off. The needle bearing, that comes greased already. There's no harm in just putting another little dab on if you want. At this stage, don't forget to replace your little lever for your switch. And this one we're actually replacing it. Only costs like €2 or €3. It's handier just to replace it now than later. And the machine coming in another time, not switching on because that switch is no longer engaging. Because to replace it, this head's in the way. So to actually change that, you have to dismantle the entire machine. So it's easier just to do it now. Deal rollers in. Obviously if any of them come loose, replace them. Or if you're in any doubt, replace them. So now, original con rod and a new piston. A new piston as well, because this pin was slack in the old one. The new piston will make it tight again. And the con rod sticks up on one side. You want the flush side to be on top of the crank. Plenty of grease inside the hammer tube. Don't believe in any bits uncovered. Outside doesn't matter as much. Just be pumping grease and around the outside of it anyway. Get it lined up on the piston. Then you can line the pipe up on the body of the machine. Now, that to one side. I'll focus on the tool holder. That's the O-ring for down on here. And that drops on there. This is just tool holder grease. It is not gear or hammer grease. That's why it says no gears on it. It's only just to keep the tool holder lubricated. Them in there. Your plastic sleeve over the top. Your jagged steel ring then, the actual teeth face down under the balls. That's what actually stops your chisel from just rotating around. Drop that on. Your spring sits on top of that. And your retainer then for your paws. Now what can happen whenever the tool holder wears out like this one did, where the actual keyways wear away, the actual tool retainers, these two pins here, they end up doing the work of the keyways and hold the chisel in position. It will work without the keyways on these 11Es or any just hammer only. You mainly see a big difference when it's a boring hammer. If they're trying to rotate without the keyways, the chisel just can't actually stay inside the tool holder. It'll just keep spinning. On a hammer only, the actual tool retainer pins will actually hold the chisel in position to a degree. If you start twisting it or putting it on any heavy load, it will eventually slip out and the chisel will drop out again. So you can still use the chisel even without the keyways on a hammer only, but it can be a little bit annoying because they can keep dropping out. But if the keyways do wear out in your chisel, do check the actual pins as well, because they'll be doing all the work. They'll be holding the chisel in position. They can wear very, very hard on one side. So if you need to replace the tool holder, just make sure you don't need to replace these as well. But them ones there are actually fine. If they're worn away on one side, you would replace them. This one should be okay. You get your new C-clip as well for the top. And a new cap as well. So that's your actual tool holder section, ready to go. As well, you'll notice this O-ring wasn't fitted. Why is that? It might be in these sheets. That is the hammer we just rebuilt. Doesn't show you that O-ring. That's why there actually is two sheets on this. This is the old version. So if you look here and here, there's your C-clip, your oil seal, your O-ring for inside your actual chisel, your big O-ring for the outside, then beside it, this other O-ring, old version. Some of them actually had an O-ring inside this metal housing as well. That's what this was for. If yours was the older one, you would fit that inside. But on the newer one, no O-ring, just the big one on the outside, nothing on the inside. So that is not needed. There we go. One Bosch hammer, fully serviced this time. All these bits here are all the leftovers, but they're replaced with the service kit. Now, big question is, what does it sound like? Sounds a hell of a lot better. Motor's running smooth again. You can actually hear the hammer starting to kick in there. Lovely job. Sometimes the hammer, as soon as you get it serviced, does take a little while. A few seconds of running to actually get the hammer to start engaging. That's whenever you switch it on initially, you'll see the whole thing wobble back and forth. That's the grease getting moved around between the piston and the striker. The striker's probably got too much grease on it, and it's actually moving far too much. The whole machine takes the weight of that. But after a few seconds, you see it stops shaking back and forth, and you can hear the hammer starting to run smooth again. Nice one. That video worked out very well. That's two Bosch GSH11E hammers. Exact same model, exact same machine, nearly the exact same age. Both older type Bosch hammers. Both not hammering. Both done a lot of work. Both repaired in two different ways. First one didn't need all that much, just needed a mini service to get it up and running again and hammering. This one needed a lot more work. Bearings, needle bearings, all are gone. Tool holders worn out of it. Needed a complete service kit. Full strip down just like the other one. But both of them up and running again and hammering and sounding like new machines again. So that machine there is just a perfect example of why you buy the big brands, where you pay extra for a machine that you can actually repair. When something like this breaks down, stops working, you don't have to dump it and just replace it with a new one. You'd be mad to do it. These here hammers cost about €700 to buy now. This thing's 21 years old. This is the third time it's been serviced, plus 7 other times in for repair for smaller things. But 3 times getting a full service done on it. That's 3 times the actual hammer stopped working on it. If you'd have replaced that there with a brand new machine every time it stopped hammering, you'd be out a fortune. €700 a time, you're over £2,000. This here one, even this service here now, even after replacing the tool holder and everything else that actually needed a little bit extra work, even if it charged full list priced for all the parts that went into this here, plus labour and VAT, you'd be still looking at only €300 for that full repair there on a 21-year-old machine. Now, but that would be list priced, full RRP price. Nobody ever charges that. Full on price that Bosch actually charge will be 300 quid basically, maybe a wee bit less, but nobody ever charges the full list price for the parts. You get a discount on it and most people's markups will be much less than the actual list price. So that repair, realistically, using a proper markup with labour and VAT included, that full repair, if you had to put in a brand new tool holder, that is, same as the last price, you'd be looking about €250. But because that's only a second hand part, I'm obviously not going to charge full price for it. This here, full repair, cost actually €220. But even at €220, that's still quite expensive for a full service on a GSH11E, mainly because it needed a new piston, the wee lever at the back, second hand tool holder, plus a couple other wee bits. They brought the price up a little bit, but generally when you're doing a full service on this, it's a service kit, needle bearing, seal at the bottom, bearing down here, and that's about it. So whenever you actually normally service these machines, you're not replacing the tool holder or the piston or the con rod or anything like that there. It's just a service kit and a few other little bits and pieces. Normally it costs about €150, €160 to do a full service on one of these here machines. So that's generally why you buy the bigger main brands that actually supply all the spare parts. If they stop working, you can service them, get them running again, saves you buying a new machine. But that gives you a good idea of the two extremes. The two hammers, nearly the same age, repaired in two different ways. This one didn't need as much, didn't need a full service kit, so it only cost €80 to repair that one. This one needed a lot more and had a lot more damage. That actually cost $220. And it's still going to be way more cost effective to actually get it repaired and serviced compared to buying a new one. The only time we wouldn't actually fix these things is if it's totally worn out and it's far too much damage and it's going to cost more than that again, at least half the price of the machine, or if the motor's gone. If that armature's burnt out, that's costing like €300 alone. So if the motor's gone, them generally not going to be worth fixing, but nearly 95% of the time these machines, when they come on for repair, are always fixed. Anyway folks, thanks for watching. Hope that helps somebody out there, and hope that helps show some people that it's not actually always worthwhile just replacing a machine and buying new, especially something like these here Bosch hammers. It's always more cost effective to repair them. Some people for some reason have the attitude, once something stops working, bin it, buy a new one. The price of these things, you really wouldn't want to be doing that there. When you can get them fixed up for as little as that one, you'd be mad to just dump it and buy a new one. So let me know in the comments section, folks, what do you do? If your hammer breaks down, do you simply replace it, or do you get it repaired? Or if this was your hammer, would you pay €300 to get this here thing fixed up again, or would you just replace it with a brand new one? Let me know in the comment sections what people normally do. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something from it. If you're enjoying the videos, give us a wee like and a follow, and drop us a wee comment down below as well to let us know what you would do. Do you fix them up yourselves? Do you send them in for repair? Would you be happy to pay that kind of money? And if this was your machine, would you pay that kind of money to get it fixed up? Let us know in the bottom. Thanks for watching.